Having an autistic sibling changes your life in ways most people never see. Welcome to My Sibling is Autistic, the podcast where we share real stories, real conversations, and the lived experiences that come from growing up on the sibling side of autism. I'm your host, Christopher Reyes. I am a father of two autistic siblings. We live in Clovis, California. We also own an indoor play space for kids of all abilities, including those with autism. In each episode, we talk about the love, the challenges, the misunderstandings, and the moments that shape us when we grow up alongside someone who experiences the world in their own unique way. Whether you're a parent, a sibling, an educator, or someone who just wants to understand autism beyond the stereotypes, this is a space for empathy, learning, and connection. Because every sibling has a story, and these are the ones that need to be heard.
Hello and good day to everybody. My name's Chris, host of My Sibling is Autistic podcast. I'm here with a very special guest today for a very special episode. I have here Dan Roth. So, hi Dan.
Hey Chris, it's nice to meet you, and as a fellow ASD parent, always appreciate the community.
Yeah, ASD parent, shout out to everyone listening right now who are ASD parents. I myself have two kids with autism. And you, Dan, please tell us, well, you can start with yourself or you can start with your kids, either or. So let's start.
We could get progressive with it. So I was one of the test babies for ADHD. I was diagnosed in 1989. Language processing the following year. I developed anxiety, depression, eating disorder, body dysmorphia. As a result of it, have been on medication for the majority of my life. I have twin daughters. When they were born, both experienced certain aspects that led them to being evaluated. I brought my daughter Haley, and at the time it was like right during what was supposed to be her nap time. So I rejected the diagnosis when they brought up autism, just because I didn't think she was her best self. It wasn't that I rejected, that I hated the term. But with Brooklyn, my daughter brought her and when the diagnosis was brought up, she accepted that. And what I didn't know is that opens up to so many possibilities when it comes to support. A couple of years later in kindergarten, my daughter Haley had her teacher come to us and say, hey, we want to get tested just to make sure she has everything in place. Got tested, did a fully comprehensive, over-the-top evaluation, and everything came back saying she was autistic as well, just in a completely different capacity. As you know, having two children that are autistic, no two children are alike, and it's hard to realize that in the moment, just because when you see one, you have this ideation of this is what all autistic children appear to be. So you kind of place other behaviors in different categories when it shows up in all different shapes, sizes, and variations. And then Haley was recently diagnosed as a concurrent condition with ADHD inattentive, which is what I was diagnosed with. So we're working through that, and through all of it, they've received ABA therapy and support. And as a fellow ASD father, I saw how few fathers were involved, and I went in the other direction and got really involved.
Oh, wow, great story. So Dan, you yourself are neurodivergent, as you mentioned. So now you have twins with ASD, with neurodivergency. So about the science of autism, I mean, genetics play a role. When you got news about having your twins having autism, how did that make you feel as a parent? Like, did it bring you back to when you were growing up with autism? Did you had some? I mean, I know it's a very commonly asked question, but did you feel any guilt because you yourself had neurodivergent? Did you feel guilt that your kids somehow inherited some way?
So it's a great question, and I think I have a little bit of a different experience. Everything about us having children was backwards. Neither my wife nor I have twins run in our families. So we were the first on both sides. We don't have autism run in either side of our families, although we do have, both sides have some mental health. I was always, I always had anxiety about having kids because I didn't want them to struggle the way that I did. But at the same point, because I was diagnosed so early, I've been an advocate for neurodivergence and had time to understand it better than most people. So I feel like I was more equipped to handle it than most would be. And as a result, I think it made it a little bit easier. The only guilt that I sort of felt and is going back to the idea of, well, my I had the idea that all autism looked the same, and so it's, could I have gotten Haley more support earlier on? But at the same time, I have to give myself a little bit of grace because we don't know what we don't know, and no matter how hard we try, we're gonna make mistakes. So I'm the best parent that I know how to be, and that's really all I could do.
Yeah, we do the best we can. We accept the situation, and it's about, how do we attack that? How do we move forward from this? So this is going to be a first time I'm going to tell during this podcast, but yeah, my side has a lot of mental health issues. My wife's side has ASD through her family, so it wasn't. We always knew it was a risk. It was going to be might happen at some point. CDC says 1 out of 31 kids have autism. So as soon as our son at a year and a half couldn't have that 6 words, and there were already signs. Okay, so we were on it. Like, okay, let's bring to the doctor. Let's have all these tests done. It helped with acceptance for us, at least, that my wife and I are both nurses, so we kind of know about the medical stuff, and we were on it. So, but when we got the diagnosis officially, my wife just bawled and cried, all day. It's just, and even though we knew it was going to be diagnosed, there was going to be diagnosis. When you officially have that on paper, on writing, on the app, on the medical app, yeah, it's a whole different. So yeah.
And then I don't know if you experienced this, but like with my wife, it would be one of those things where she would constantly be asking, is Brooklyn improving? Do you see changes? And I think one of the cool things that we don't talk about enough is when your children have autism or a challenge, it forces you to look at victories and markers differently. You take more notice of the subtleness in everyday activity, and it slows you down quite a bit. And when I started to realize that I'd be able to point out, whether it was to my family, whether it was to my wife and her family, hey, look at what she did today. The other thing you learn is that your kids are going to surprise you. Autism is not life ending just because your child may be nonverbal or have other challenges. That doesn't mean that they don't have comprehension of things. It just means that it's going to take more time, and you got to let things happen the way that they're meant to happen. And all you could do is really create the infrastructure that allows them to grow.
Yeah. Let's talk about your twins. So how old are they now?
They're 6.5. They're going to be 7 in August.
Oh my gosh, yeah, my son's 7, my daughter's 5. We're not supposed to use levels anymore, but my son, if you were put a level on it, it would be maybe a 1.5 to 2, and my daughter would be borderline, like right in the cusp of using the scoring system. So, if you don't mind, I mean, would you explain to the viewers, like, is there a level, or is there, like, how would you describe their needs? Or
So Haley is more on the psychosocial side. A lot of her challenges revolve around how she perceives social interaction, how she writes, how she focuses. She gets very emotional and very attached to certain people and certain things, especially my wife. Brooklyn has emotional episodes. She gets very overstimulated. She understands language. She understands things, but she isn't, and she'll let you know what she wants in certain capacities. So I don't, I won't use levels. I would say that there's just different markers about it. I don't think, like, if you ask me, do I think that my children are going to need my support their entire lives? Haley definitely won't. I think Brooklyn will always be there and need support, but I don't think that there's anything that will prohibit her from being fully capable. So the only way I can answer that is saying that I don't think it's a situation where we're going to be fully responsible for their entire lives.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know we got to look towards the future, but what does 18 years old or 21 years old look like? But yeah, now they're 6.5. I want to talk about sibling dynamic. How do Haley and Brooklyn show their love to each other? How do they play with each other? Are there any challenges or victories? Or I mean, how do you see them progress towards the future
So they love each
as
other.
siblings? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they love each other very much. And there isn't always, so I don't want to say it's weird, but when they were babies, Brooklyn had a tendency to put her hand on Haley and comfort Haley. Brooklyn was more physically active and had that side down pat, and she still does. Haley was slower to walk. When Haley's vocalization and she started talking and Brooklyn wasn't able to, the roles switched. And being that they were born in 2019, so they really were in the home for the first formative years of their lives, they were all they had. So they figured out different ways to communicate. And there would definitely be times where Haley would be like, why isn't Brooklyn responding, or why isn't she doing this? But then over time, you saw Brooklyn would give Haley hugs and kisses. And there are times where Brooklyn, during emotional episodes, she would take Haley's hand and sit her down with her because it helped calm her down. So, and then Haley would find ways to play with Brooklyn, whether Brooklyn's a water baby, so whether it's squirting her with water or they found ways to play. So it's a very, very loving dynamic. I think the hard thing is, and this is more with twins in general, is as parents, we really have to find that balance with cultivating each of their personality, but also balancing how much time we're spending with each one. And that's definitely a challenge, but one that we embrace.
Wow. Yeah. So, are they in the same class?
So Brooklyn is in extensive support. She goes to one school because only certain schools in our district have extensive support. And for those that are unaware, extensive support, basically there's 12 kids in the class, a main teacher, and then 4 aides. Haley's in general education, and she's at our quote unquote local school, although both are local. Now, we could have made the decision, and it would have been a lot easier as parents to move Haley over to Brooklyn School, but we wanted to ensure that they both were growing up with their own personalities, with their own friends, and we knew that Haley might not be able to fully be herself, be free. I'm trying to figure out the right words. If she felt like she had to look after her sister. So we kept them separated.
Okay. So more about school. I mean, how has been the school district so far? Have they been awesome with you guys? I mean, I see you're smiling.
I'm smiling because when my girls started school, I got very involved, and everybody in the district in special education knows me. Now, I come from a background where I am an advocate, but I'm also a former diversity, equity, inclusion executive. I understand. And my mother was a 22-year kindergarten teacher. So I got involved and I ensured that my kids had every ability. And that meant talking to teachers, talking to administration, talking to the school board. So there, even when there are gaps, and there really haven't been many, we've been very lucky with the teachers that they've had and the support that they've received. But even when there were gaps, I made sure to fill those in quickly.
Yeah, so it seems that your school district is, well supported. Well,
Yeah.
I would say maybe, that's great.
They're open to it. Our school district was one of the few in California that was affected by MAGA cuts. And we are in a multi-million-dollar deficit. So, of course, some of the special education programs and services have been cut. And then there's also a gap with the aides. So I don't know how it is in your district, but the aides don't get a whole lot of training to support these children, which is a huge issue as far as I'm concerned. And coupled with the fact that they're part of a union, like I can't even offer free trainings or optional trainings for these aides without ensuring that they're getting paid for it. And it's not that I'm not for paid labor, but it's almost like let them make the choice. So we definitely have our issues, but I've taken a very large role in stepping in and trying to protect and ensure that we have sustainable ability so that every child has a chance.
Looking towards the next 5 years, 10 years, you think, oh, Dan's from San Diego, by the way.
I'm originally from New Jersey, but now I'm in San Diego, yes.
Oh, I was born in New Jersey.
Yep.
Yeah, so would you say San Diego would be a great city to raise autistic children? Yeah, I gotta take a breather right there, huh?
Do I get political? I
You're
don't.
free. You're free to do anything, Dan.
No, I understand that. I don't think anywhere is the perfect place to raise a child that appears to be different under the current administration and in the U.S. in general. Although I do work internationally, and I do know that, especially with neurodivergence, places like the UK are about 20 years behind the US. That being said, do I think that California in general provides more resources than the majority of states? Yes, I do. Uh, but even in those resources, such as regional centers, the regional center at Current is a year plus from intake to acceptance. Now, part of that is that we're seeing an uptick in the amount of young girls that are being diagnosed as neurodivergent. And part of that is that we've only recently really started to discover how neurodivergence looks in girls. Even though neurodivergence has been around for about 100 years, testing, whether it's the Vanderbilt scale or otherwise, is really focused on young boys because it was more obvious when it came to hyperactivity, whereas young girls are taught through systemic to mask, to hide, and it's more subtle. So the amount of experts that are able to properly diagnose young girls is few and far between. But because we are starting to see that uptick, it's putting a lot heavier load on regional centers and support systems, delaying a parent's ability to get, whether it's respite care or in our case, like I don't have a lot of money. The regional center provides access to free camps for the summer. So it's for all the pluses, there's still barriers.
Yeah, definitely. We feel that here too. So I'm from California. Also, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I moved to Central California, specifically Clovis, because we believe the school system is better. But yeah, definitely. My daughter got diagnosed later because it's more difficult to diagnose in girls. But yeah, we feel that here too in our regional center. But still, like you said, I still believe California is still better than other states in terms of autism care. That's why because of that reason, we don't see ourselves leaving until our kids graduate high school or college. So, yeah, go California.
Yeah, and that's the main, because we both know how expensive it is here. And if costs ever decrease, then it will be a lot more viable. Like, I miss Jersey. I was in Jersey till 26, 27 years old. My wife is from San Diego, and, you know, we're very well set up here, but the cost of living is so incredible. But like, it makes you question, like, where would you go? What's the trade-offs? And even a broken system is a decent system if it's been set up to at least support,
Yeah,
because you could
definitely.
always correct those breaks.
Yeah. So Dan, as we move towards, well, we're almost at the end of this podcast episode. So I want to talk about your advocacy. What have you been doing for the community? I'd like to talk more about it.
Yeah, and I love to. And, you know, for those listening, Chris and I share a similar passion for providing each child an opportunity. So I'll make this story as short and concise as I humanly can. I have a global presence, and I try to use it for the betterment of society. And the reason I bring that up is because last year, when my daughter entered kindergarten, I said to the principal in passing, "Hey, I have a large community. If you need anything, let me know." So she goes, "Well, one of the students has an adaptive swing and it's going to take forever to bring over. If you could happen to get one." I don't think she thought twice about it. In 2 days, I went on LinkedIn, raised $1,500, purchased an adaptive swing, brought it in. And I had to go through like the entire process. Like, going through a school system is not easy. And then, like, people think that the adaptive swings on Amazon are good. No. So from that point, I had started to get involved in our community advisory committee for special education. And I thought to myself, well, one is great, but what if we were able to turn this into the most inclusive district in the city, if not the state? So I named the project the Manny Project after the child who, and he had cerebral palsy, and it takes a long time for schools to get approval for purchases. So I named it after him. But in addition to the swings, I wanted to look at other things. So we spoke to the head PT physical therapist in our district, and we started to put things together like toilet seat risers, like sensory bags and equipment. I started to get data from teachers about what they need, because every teacher, they're barely afforded a per diem per classroom. So if I could fundraise and take the burden off of them, that's what I wanted to do. So I put this all together and then figured out, okay, well, we need to apply for this many grants, so on and so forth. To date, in about 18 months, going on 2 years, we've raised over $10,000, purchased 16 swings, and we've entered into phase 2 of the Manny Project, which is really looking at all these other components and seeing what else we could do. I'm also partnering with different organizations. Hope on a Hard Road is one of them. that's a 501c3 here, and some others. So the real goal is to bring the community together, to push, and I'm not going to stop until every child that I run into is happy and has an opportunity and has a chance. And just to complement the work that you're doing, gyms and adaptive equipment is not just for the child with special needs. Data has shown, and what we've seen with our own eyes, is that it builds relationships and community with neurotypical children. It allows them to play together. We see neurotypical children lining up to push the kids on the swings and have fun with them. And it's just one aspect of the socialization that often gets so overlooked with these children, and people see different and they tend to run away. When you and I see different, we run towards, and that's what we need more of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those watching, Dan, if they want to donate to the Manny Project, where do they go to?
They would reach out to me directly. It is part of a 501c3, so it is a tax write-off. Also, as we put on new events, I could certainly provide that information for everybody. I do have a chapter in an anthology that's out, and for every book purchased directly through me, $5 goes to the Manny Project. So I'm doing whatever I can, and I just, I hope to see other fathers like you that are out there and making a difference, because that's another one of my objectives. We need to reduce the emotional labor placed on moms, and we can only do that by stepping up as dads.
Absolutely. Yeah, we dads gotta, you know, pitch in emotionally to the burden and load of raising autistic children. So, but Dan, if they want to email you, we'll put in the description.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your
You could email me. You could check out my TEDx. I have a heavy presence on social media, LinkedIn, everywhere. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I'm one of those people that if you send me a message, I'm immediately going to get back to you. This is going to take a community. So the more people we can get on our side, the better it's going to be.
All right? To close out this episode, once Haley in Brooklyn sees this episode at sometime in the future, what message would you like to say to your twins right now?
I didn't expect you to get me emotional, Chris. I
At some point, yeah, they're going to see this episode, and I always ask every episode,
No,
what?
it's a wonderful question. It's my children are my best friends. They're my why. And the message I would give them is I'm doing this all for you.
Awesome. What would you tell Haley? I mean, do you have a message for Haley regarding Brooklyn and vice versa? Do you have a
My
message for
message for
Brooklyn?
Haley is to stop telling fart jokes. that, uh, they're not funny, Haley, no matter how many times you say the same one. Uh, that's my child. But my kids are going to be best friends forever, and they're going to understand when they get older how to advocate for themselves and for others. And that's a blessing that I just hope that more parents are able to interlace into their children's upbringing.
Yeah. Okay. This is the super last because last episode, Dan, I interviewed the 65-year-old autistic male, and when his parents died, their siblings, they didn't communicate with each other anymore. They lost that love. So I guess,
Oh, I don't have a relationship with my brother,
mm,
so I understand that.
yeah. No, what I meant is like when you and your wife are gone, are you is there some fear that your kids might not be as close as they are now?
No. And I hope it's because of the diligence that my wife have put into cultivating each of their personalities, not making it a competition for each of our times, for the love that we show and put into each of them. I understand what it's like being the one that the parents had to really spend a lot of time with. And I think that played a role into why I don't have a relationship with my brother. So because of that, I made sure that that's not the way that we approached it. Can I predict the future? No, but I've done everything to the best of my capability.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you for your time. If your brother's listening to this episode, I hope he knows how great of a guy you are and how a beacon of hope you are for the autism community. So,
I
to everyone
appreciate it.
watching, you're welcome. Yeah, to everyone watching, take care and have a good day.
Thank you for listening to My Sibling is Autistic. If today's episode spoke to you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. Your support helps us amplify sibling stories and build a more understanding, inclusive world. You can find clips of the show at We Rock Clovis on social media. Send us a message if you want to be on the podcast. Find resources, episode notes, and ways to get involved at werockclovis.com. Remember, you're not alone. Your experiences matter, and your story is worth telling. Until next time, thanks for being here.